Welcome to Starsmada.
And brushing up your game.
All right, awesome. So we are here with a series we started a long time ago. Wait, that's the wrong universe, the wrong star.
There'll be a little bit of a callback, though.
Yeah, well, we started it a while back, where we take a bit of a. I think this is a fun look at the factions, but also a meaningful look at factions and what they bring to the game, how to play them, how to play against them, things you might want to buy from the faction, and then we kind of just do a kind of random top 5 of something. In this case, we're looking at the top 5 Romulan tech you might want to run.
Yeah. Yes, so we sort of have a loose format to these episodes, and it typically starts with the identity of the faction. And in my opinion, the Romulans definitely had a very strong identity at the start of the game, but it kind of feels like that identity wasn't improved throughout it. And that would be Romulans were your de facto tanks. Their ships had the most health. They were in the first kit that you bought. They had cloaking, but even if they were cloaked, their hull was still incredibly high. And the trade-off that they were given was 3 attack dice. But that kind of just stayed that way.
Yeah, so right, the first Daredix, it was the Kazara, right?
Kazara. Yeah.
The Kazara, a 3-2-6-4, 3 attack, 2 defense dice, 6 hull, 4 shields, and just simple named ability. If you initiate an attack while you're cloaked, you get an extra attack die. So, like, you know, you're absolutely right. Very, very defensive. Typically not going to die in one attack coming at it. And a very straightforward ability where you get a little something else because you're cloaked. I actually want to say that, to me, was probably where the Romulan abilities kept in. Yes, they were tanky, absolutely. I'm not going to argue that. But I think they had just a tiny bit more of an identity where they would do something if they were cloaked.
Yeah, you do definitely get a lot of cloaked base abilities, and the best Romulan ships all have to do with cloaked abilities, and the worst Romulan ships have to do with cloaked abilities.
Well, the worst ones might have to do with like taking damage.
Yeah, but the Praetus takes damage, and it also has to do with being cloaked.
Yeah.
So
or like the Azure.
It's the ultimate worst Klingon. It would be a bad Klingon ship because it's not even a Klingon ship.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst Romulans in my opinion.
And you know, I have Utopia up with like all the Romulan ships, and a lot of them actually have these nice ways of getting an extra attack die. That's another theme that comes through in Romulans, which I think is just speaking to Romulans don't get enough attack dice.
That is, yeah, it's the problem. It's like they said, you know what? I'm going to take all the defense dice. You guys keep the attack dice.
Well, and, you know, I've been rewatching Next Generation. The Romulans were a threat. They were they were on par with the Enterprise D from a toe-to-toe standpoint. And
you just don't.
Yeah, you didn't want to go to war, to combat with a Romulan Daredix.
Yeah, it was supposed to be the equivalent of like the Galaxy class, and the Daredix was supposed to be like, you know, this was the equivalent of the US and the USSR showing off their nuclear armament. It was, yeah, when a Galaxy class pulls up to a dispute and a Daredix pulls up to the dispute, you know there isn't actually going to be a battle because none of these ships want to actually fire on each other.
Right.
And it's the moment when Romulans pull up a second Daredix, that's when you're in trouble. And again, because if you go back to the start of Star Trek Attack, when the game's balance was a lot more simplified. That kind of rang true if you had one D'Deridex and one Galaxy class with no upgrades. They were kind of on par.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, if you take a generic D'Deridex and a generic Galaxy class, they both have discounts. I think they're still technically balanced against each other, but nothing else about the faction holds that same balance. It feels... It's like it's only the D'Deridex and the Galaxy class that have remained balanced with each other, and that might have to do with the fact that we've gotten so few Galaxy class ships.
It might.
If we had more Galaxy class ships, then the D'Deridexes would just fall to the wayside.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. That being said, there are some really cool named abilities on D'Deridexes, especially the new one we got.
There's also one that I love so much, and I never play it because it's just I used to play it all the time. Here, PBW Tamal. I don't even know what the PBW stood for, but that was, I think, my favorite D'Deridex ability. But yeah, I never see it being played. That's the one where you can disable 2 enemy shields in exchange for an auxiliary power token. That, I think, was by far my favorite.
Okay.
But there's so many out there. Like, if I just type in D, D into Utopia here, there's so many to choose from. Even the Avatar of Tomed's ability isn't great, but it's still pretty cool. But yeah, like the Hakona. The Hakona was one that was ruled pre-Rule of 3, for sure.
Absolutely it was, yeah.
It's still pretty nice. I flew it in a mission the other day. And it was pretty fun to fly. I had like a couple science vessels flying alongside it. I was actually playing one of the old missions.
So I just did a quick memory alpha search for what PWB stands for, and they don't have a direct answer, but there's a thought that it could be Praetor's Warbird.
I see there's a couple pre-WBs in Utopia here. There's a Jarimur. Each time you attack, you may reroll one of your attack dice for each damage card assigned to your ship.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't mind that kind of ability on a 6-hull ship. So like,
right.
That's all right.
Pointless on like a 3-hull.
Yeah, or I think there may have even been... No, I don't think I've seen that on a 2-hull ship, but I've definitely seen it, I think, on a 3-hull. Like Klingons. What's Twilight's Wrath?
Klingons? We're Romulans today. We don't care about Klingons.
Unfortunately, they will come up when we bring up the swarm tactics for these things.
Yeah, I know.
Twilight's Wrath. What was that one? I'm not familiar with that. Was that a booster?
No, the Twilight's Wrath is just coming out here in the Secrets of the tal'shiar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you look at it and you go, wait a second, I don't remember you. You're actually good.
After an opposing ship within range, 1 to 3. I love 1 to 3 abilities.
Oh, absolutely.
Performs an action. If this ship is cloaked, you may perform an additional Sensor Echo as a free action. This round, place a battle station token beside your ship. If that ship is a Dominion ship, you may do both. Ooh, this feels like a ship that you would want to run. Like, you wouldn't even need to put Lars on this ship to make it good. It does it itself.
That's... Yeah. And
although
it's
it wouldn't
super
hurt.
thematic.
Nothing hurts to put Lars on it.
No.
Then you get a defensive battle station. You'd get you'd already have you'd trigger his ability with the Sensor Echo, and you'd get the +1 dice. You'd be firing 4 dice. You'd have 2 battle stations. That's something I really like about Lars. I think Lars is the perfect example. I'm gonna actually punch him into Utopia so people watching can know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He is, I think, the best example of a well-balanced, like a well-designed card, because there was when I joined up with the game, I saw a lot of expansions that had cards whose purpose was like, oh, it costs 5 extra if you put it on the wrong ship, or this card only works on this specific ship. And I kept thinking, like, why don't you just make a card that works super great on that ship, but can be used on others? And Lars is a great example of that, because to me, he works best on the IRW Talon, the ship he was supposed to be put on. But he has no restrictions related to the Talon. You can put him on any ship, and he's great on any like cloaking ship. But he's best on the Talon. Although with some of these new ships, he might even be better on them. But like when he came out, it was like you wanted to put him on the Talon, but you were free to put him on anything else.
Yeah.
And he would make everything good. Some of the newer Romulan cards are kind of doing that, but they're still doing it artificially, where it's like they're adding points or various other restrictions in order to make them better on some ships. Lars, though, is perfect because he works great on his ship because he was designed for his ship.
And that's a really good point. It's a lot of what I think has happened with Romulans as a total, as a sum, is that they have had interesting cards given to them, but they've been very restricted. And I think that actually speaks to who Romulans are as a society that we see in Next Generation. And granted, we don't get to see a lot of them, but they're very fragmented. This side doesn't want to talk to that side. The tal'shiar looms over everything. They don't tend to cooperate very much.
That is a good point.
I
have to say, one...
It does make sense that we get these restrictions, and this can only go on this class. This costs more to move over here. We don't want to play with Klingons and all of that. So, I don't know. It hurts from a gameplay mechanic, a gameplay standpoint, but I love the thematicism that it's brought. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thinking of what Romulans bring to the game is some awesome tech, some awesome captains, some pretty cool defensive shenanigans, awesome cloaking, and some cool secrets that we'll be able to get into.
Okay. So that, I would say, covers their identity pretty well.
Yeah.
They're also, I guess, the sort of overlap between this point and our next point. Our next point being how do you build for them is, I would say, their strongest suit at the moment, along with tech, of course, is their movement capabilities, and that certainly appears to be where the tal'shiar pack is leaning.
Uh-huh. Well, and okay.
All right, here we go.
It's this idea of, so you want to be a good Romulan player. What do you need? What do you need to be able to do? And I think the number one thing you need to be able to do is play a good movement game. You need to be able to picture where ships can get advantageous firing positions. Not just this round, but 1, 2, 3 rounds ahead. That's really the key to playing Romulans well. Because of things like sensor echoes, and now with the bank echoes that exist and abilities that are out there, you have to make a lot of informed decisions. Romulans are not a casual first-time players game. That it's not the faction for those people.
They aren't easy to master. Like, if you're a casual player, by all means, you can play Romulan.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
just if you're a casual player playing Romulan, don't expect to win. No offense, but they are difficult to master, and I would say one of the most important skills to have as a Romulan player is know how to build to like point efficiency. Because one thing that's part of I accidentally killed the Romulan filter on here, so now board cards are appearing. No!
The Romulans have been assimilated.
Yes, there is the Avatar of Tomed. I do like that ship so much.
Yes.
But what was I saying, right? You need to build efficiently, because Romulan ships, if you'll look here, are expensive. They're expensive. I would say one of the things that they do well, though, is they do, I think, have more 1-point crew cards than any other faction. I don't even own all
I
the
think you
Romulan
can say
ships, and
that.
I've got. Yeah, I don't even own all the Romulan ships, and I have so many 1-point Romulan crew cards.
They have, at least to my count, six 1-point crew.
Actually, yeah, I can just bring them up here.
And
Not used.
on top of that, they have 11 2-point crew. Not saying they're all useful, but they're at least playable. Now, we should also say there are 2 copies of Param as 1-point crew, so really you have 5 1-point crew that you can actually put on a ship.
There's also a Borcha. We have 2 1-point Borchas.
Oh, okay, so 4. Sorry.
But I think he's also. Is he a 1-point or a 2-point captain? I think he's a 2-point captain, Borcha.
Even worse. But that being said, I think there's at least 2 of those that I would actually play in a game. Thay and Patak.
Let's see.
I think those
Yeah,
are
Thay
both
is a go-to.
I think they're both playable 1-point cards. Thay fits on just about anything, and Patak, you gotta build a little bit. But he's an extra attack die. Thay's an extra cloak. Or, keep your cloak. So.
Yeah, Thay goes well, I think, in the same line as why Romulan Spy is good. Just
Yes.
getting yourself a free scan.
Uh-huh.
Not scan, a free cloak is really useful.
Yes.
But yeah, when it comes to building the Romulans with the cost, they're definitely a faction of extremes. Because they're, let's see, you've got they have the cheapest ships in the game. So that would immediately think, oh yeah, they're great for swarms.
Nope.
And yeah, in a 120-point game, you can run well over 12 Romulan science vessels. But the problem is, they don't got any bite to them, meaning that a Klingon swarm of 4 ships or 6 ships will still have the advantage because they have more attack dice. But then if you try to build a swarm or a group of D'Deridex ships, yes, you've got more durable ships than the Klingons, but your attack dice are so weak that the Klingons still have the advantage. So, like, a Romulan swarm is kind of... I don't even know if it's really that doable. However, you might be able to do it with Romulan D7s.
Oof. So, okay. While possible, here's my challenge with it. D7s have kind of 2 things working against them. One, they only have a forward 90 arc. Secondly, while the Talon is a great ship, and it is, absolutely it is, I still look to find ways of playing that Talon. The Algeron is just a terrible ship. That's the other named D7.
Yeah, flowers for Algeron. When attacking with your primary weapon, if your ship is not cloaked during the declare target step, you may perform a 1 maneuver before choosing an enemy to attack. That doesn't seem that bad.
Okay,
it's like I like to... Oh, 18 points. Yeah, that's not great.
And there's been weird rulings about how it works, and I don't want to hash that out.
Cool. Ignorance is bliss for the casual player.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not going to tell you about shuttlecraft rule changes.
No,
I'm going to let you live in happiness.
Yeah. Now, I will say the D7 actually has a very nice maneuver dial. I think it's comparable to the Brel. So we can go toe-to-toe with the Brel for movement.
Actually, I think the D7 might be... Does the D7 have Valdor turns?
2 and 3 turns. I need to pull up a Burrell here.
Yeah, I set up my thing so it doesn't actually show you the movement cards.
Okay,
but
pulling up.
Yeah, Burrell. I think. And speaking of that, we should probably tell the audience what we mean by Valdor turns. That was that was kind of the language I heard for a while when I first joined. Was talk about the Valdor turns. What that means is your one straight, one banks, two straight, and two banks are all green, and it makes like a nice little rectangle on your movement card.
Yes. Okay. So yes, the
It does have
Romulan
Valdor turns.
D7 has the Valdors. The one and two straight banks are green, whereas the
Yeah, it
Burrell
looks.
it's one two straight and one banks are green. So it's a little nicer. But your only red maneuver is your three come about. I, and sure, the difference is your Burrells are getting 4 attack dice.
Yeah, but there are ways around that with the Romulans. There are a couple weapons
Denatra.
which pretty much only give you. Oh yeah, Denatra. She's the one Romulan card you'll see everywhere in the current meta
Uh huh.
online. The current online firm out meta has Denatra in like almost every fleet.
And she only
Um,
got better.
yes, she's getting better, and I was like, out of all the cards that the Romulans could have been improved, I almost feel bad that they chose to improve Denatra because it's like she was already so great. You didn't need to make her better. There's so many captains and things you could have made better, and you chose to make the good card even better.
Well, why not?
Um,
I
oh, the D7s do have that Disruptor Blast weapon, which is nice for 3 points.
yeah,
But at that point, you're now pushing it more expensive than a Burrell.
sure.
But yeah, let's look up Denatra. Denatra. Here we go. So, pretty much the same, just with a bonus. If the friendly ship is a Valdor or Sovereign class, they get a blank into a. They can convert a blank into a hit.
Mm-hmm.
So she is pretty much the same. She just works a bit better in like thematic play.
Yes.
And I think this was something you brought up in your video. It looks like they're kind of rewarding thematic play now.
Which I'm completely here for. It's you know,
Before,
well, okay. I
I know you didn't like B4, but like to me, I love him.
no, so
Oh,
this
he's
is
not Romulan. He's just in the pack. My bad.
okay. Well,
Um,
B4 is Romulan independent, but it's
he did, I don't think he's Romulan independent. I think he's just independent. Let me see, because he's not coming up on Utopia as Romulan.
oh, I see him as both. But
Oh, how is his name spelt? I thought it was just B4.
B-4.
Oh, that's why he's not coming up. Okay.
Yeah. No, so okay,
There we
some
go.
cards are objectively bad or confusing to use or aren't good yet.
Yes, those are cards that in my system I rank as 0 in my 1 to 7. My very complicated system no one understands.
And hey, it works, right?
Yeah.
And like when I look at a card, if I'm confused by it and I don't have a means of playing it yet, that doesn't mean it's impossible to use. I'm not gonna sit there and trash a card. From trying to design stuff for this game and other games, I know how difficult it can be. I give the design team a lot of credit because it is very difficult to try to encapsulate the feel of these cards. I think what they've done better in the last several waves of packs, even going back to like the Ferengi and the animated series, the Kelvin packs, is they've put in very thematic cards that also work well in gameplay design.
I mean, Gold Press Platinum was an entire mechanic that was thematic and
Absolutely.
worked very well.
And what the
When I
Romulans
introduced it to
have,
my player,
sorry, keep
yeah,
going.
when I introduced it to my players, my small little group here, they were like, "Oh, it's just cheating." I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty
You're paying to
much.
break the rules."
But that's what the Ferengi do. They cheat. Um, but yeah, to talk about the Romulans and how to keep how to keep playing them. It's the Romulans have their shenanigans. They have things that cloak. They have, we're talking about trying to swarm with them. I don't think I don't think a swarm ever truly works.
Yeah, not with Romulans. It's not their thing.
But I think Denatra is one of those key pieces. And Denatra comes from the end of our timeline, at least in published Attack Wing stuff, where Denatra starts to show the bits of cooperation. And I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here a little bit, but I think Denatra starts to show, hey, there's room for outside of Romulan cooperation. I'm not, you know, I'm
Yes.
I'm not saying go complete faction mixing craziness. While I do enjoy that, I'm not saying you got to do that, but I am saying, hey, we saw a Romulan cooperate with the Federation. Bring Denatra on a Romulan ship. Have a Federation ship in your fleet. It can work.
The I think it is the Cardassian Union faction pack has captains which are designed to work alongside the Romulans as
Uh huh.
well. And there's a little bit of that in here, in the new pack. What was it? I think it was the Daredex, which I didn't recognize the name of. The Twilight one.
Yeah,
That one is themed around fighting the Dominion.
it is.
But that was from an episode where the Cardassians were working with the Romulans, and there are Cardassians from the let's see if I can look it up here, from the Cardassian Union pack that have abilities that synergize with Romulans. In fact, there's a whole ship that synergizes with Romulans.
Right. So while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit more about maybe my philosophy with ship selection and Romulans.